channel between us because nobody's ever had us on and questioned us like you could. And I don't think there is anybody else who could question us like you do. And everybody's been wanting it. And Tracy said, "Oh my God, we should do it." So I offered it to him, and now he's overseeing that he's over on Nino, and somebody just sent me a link, and they're saying we're there. We're
Ah,
Yep. So
all
he's
right.
doing a Nino thing right now.
We're live. Here we go. Hello, everybody. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. Here once again with Sheila Holm. And we're going to be talking about Cuba today. So President Trump has said that Cuba will be next. And we're going to talk a little bit in depth about that. We got some videos to share with you. Thanks for joining us again, Sheila.
It's good to be with you. These are exciting times. We've been waiting for this. We've been asking, expose, reveal, expose, reveal. And now, guys, we're going to focus on our neighbors. They had us on the other side of the world our whole life. Nothing getting taken care of on this side. But now, a century later, we're going to get it taken care of.
Very good. Yeah, so I think that, over time, we're going to look back at this and we're going to see this is the way it had to happen. I think President Trump basically goes in and he does a strike like he did in Venezuela, and then he pulls back and sees how everything pans out. If everybody does the right thing like he plans or like the good guys are planning. Same thing with just recently Iran basically threatening the regime. We're going to take you down if you don't if you start killing your people, and of course they're killing their people, but I guess we're going to do a lot of executions. So they backed off. We have a aircraft carrier that's steaming in there, should be there in a few days. He just said I think today that regime needs to be replaced, and so that's coming. But I think like you, Cuba is really front and center.
It is what's next. And we couldn't do any of this. We couldn't do Venezuela. We couldn't do Colombia. We couldn't do Mexico. All of this has been a problem since the Spanish American War. And that's why the man in the arena, Theodore Roosevelt, that's why if we can go into that, because nothing has improved over the last century with our own neighbors. We've been spending all of our time, they've been sending us to wars all over the world on the other side of the other hemisphere, and there we are over there doing all of that, and our own hemisphere has been in trouble the whole time. And that's what is going to be fun to get into tonight because it'll help gain an understanding of why Greenland, why Canada, why Mexico, why Cuba, why Venezuela, why Colombia. It's all the heart of where we have to be right now. We have to unite together.
Yeah, and it is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. And there's a video that basically goes through this, very, very nice. But yeah, the man in the arena. This is Theodore Roosevelt. He was at the Cuba. He was in Cuba. He was San Juan Hill.
So do we have a moment to bring up that video, the man in the arena, to give an understanding of what it's like to sit right in the arena and be the one that everyone's trying to destroy when you're trying to help everyone?
Yeah, let's see. I think it's this one right here.
Yes.
The critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who was actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
That's beautiful. Dan Scavino, he's very good, very good at pointing some stuff out that's very relevant. It's kind of like an undercurrent, but he points stuff out, and it's magnificent.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in mentioning Cuba, if we flip back exactly a century ago, we were in the Spanish-American War.
Yep.
And it was all resolved with the Treaty de Hidalgo. We gave $15 million to get the current border that we have with Mexico. That's never secure. That's never considered to be secured. But do we really know what Woodrow Wilson did a couple decades later? He ends up becoming president. Then he brings in Lamar. This is in my first book, For the Sake of America, and it's in the new book. He brings in Lamar, who's an attorney in Augusta, and they grew up in Augusta, and they were childhood friends. And I've mentioned, and the pictures are in book one of the For the Sake of America, there's only 2 houses in a whole block, and they're brick houses, and they're next to each other. And the one on the left, as you're looking at it, and I'm pretty sure it's on 7th in Augusta, the one on the left is where Woodrow Wilson was raised, and Attorney Lamar was raised in the one on the right that's now the meeting area for the historical house of Woodrow Wilson. So both houses are taken up by the Historical Society at this time. So what happened is they were childhood friends, and then Taft, who was he was in the other party, was required to come down to Augusta, play golf with Lamar one day, and make a deal with Lamar, who was too sick to be an attorney in Augusta, could not function as an attorney in Augusta, but to appoint him as a Supreme Court justice. Why? The very next year, they were bringing in Woodrow Wilson to be president. And Woodrow Wilson took Lamar and went down to Mexico and renegotiated. What the heck did he do? Where are we at on that? I don't know, but 15 million back in 1898 timeframe when the San Juan Hill, this whole thing is Spanish-American War, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama. I mean, all of this was going on then. And so here we are with the change where we have that land. And I can honestly tell you, for the past 3-4 decades in California, the people from Mexico have been coming up into Los Angeles every weekend and protesting. They've been raising their Mexican flag upright at the top of their antennas or attachments to their vehicles with the American flag underneath upside down. And they've been allowed to do it. Nobody's been stopping them. Nobody's been saying anything. And when asked, because they started La Raza Radio, La Raza is the revolution. They've always felt it's their land. And when I asked them why they were doing this, they said, we want our land back. Does that sound familiar? We want our land back. It's our Panama Canal. It'll always be our Panama Canal. The people want their canal back. Do you see how this pattern is identical? So to think that the president is saying Cuba, he's saying Mexico, he's saying Colombia, he's saying Venezuela, like he wants to take them over, he doesn't. He's trying to settle and help heal what has been a lie for a century. That's what's going on. And so the president talks about Cuba, and where is Gitmo in Cuba? Where's the Navy base, Guantanamo? Where's the Navy base, Guantanamo? Right next to San Juan Hill. If we had not been victorious at San Juan Hill, so Teddy Roosevelt was putting all of his horses and these guys on trains in America, how the heck did he get on barges and everything to go down to Cuba? But they had enough men with the Rough Riders and the 17th Cavalry of New York, and these guys all collected and went down to Cuba and fought it out.
Yeah.
That was the Spanish-American War. Alamo was a Spanish-American War. They found out that the Rough Riders were being trained at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio. So where did they go? They went to the Alamo. Where's the Alamo? San Antonio. This battle was going on from 1896-7. It got hot and heavy, and San Juan, I think, was captured and victorious in 1898. But they weren't capturing it for America. They were bringing them the truth. This is where we're really at. And you don't own any part of America, and you don't own any part of Cuba doesn't own Mexico. Mexico doesn't own America. Nobody owns anybody else's land. And do you know to this day, if you look up that base in Guantanamo, do you know that the reports from the media are still that America has stolen land from Cuba to put in a base? We have paid lease on that property since 1903.
Wow.
Nothing has ever changed. That agreement has never changed. It was written as an ongoing renewal of a lease. We've never tried to buy it. We don't say we own it. It's not our land. This is not how America has operated, even with the evil people in charge. And so that land is ours, that base is ours, but these are our neighbors, Canada, Greenland, all of these, and this is a heart around Panama Canal. Can you imagine if we hadn't resecured the Panama Canal to start clearing that up and then clear up these areas? Because the ones taking advantage of these countries are the ones coming in through that canal and destroying these countries, taking them down so that they're so poor that people have nothing. In all of these, Mexico, they have nothing. Cuba has nothing. Venezuela has nothing. Colombia has nothing. And I remember it was in the latter part of the 1990s, when the rose industry in San Diego, California was being destroyed. I'm like, how can they destroy the flower industry in America? They were coming in from Colombia with long stem roses at Walmart for cheaper than our guys could sell the long stem roses in any store. So people were buying the cheaper long stem roses. What came in with those roses? Because just this week, they captured a huge 18-wheeler that had Colombian bricks of cocaine. That's the only way these countries could make their money, because they were controlled by other countries. But we weren't taking care of them. We were fighting wars on the other side of the world in the other hemisphere. If you look at what President Trump's doing, he's restructuring and capturing the truth and helping heal every one of these nations, from Greenland to Canada because they've all been taken over. We've been taken over. And so when you realize everybody's pattern is the same, we've had a gift in that the Pilgrims gave us the covenant with the Lord and kept America as a faith-based country as much as we could, but we didn't have liberty and we didn't have freedom. And now we realize nobody's had liberty and freedom because we've all been taken over. The same pattern through all of these countries. That's what the 45 points are about. And that's why at the bottom of the book it says, not just to save souls, save America, but save the world. It's the same pattern with every country. But the people in Europe know what they're doing. And that's why we go and we tear up their countries in war, and then we rebuild them. And we haven't rebuilt anything in America. Cuba hasn't been able to rebuild anything. Venezuela, Colombia, they haven't been able to rebuild anything. Mexico can't rebuild anything. If you see how they're living in their houses and etc., San Diegans were warned, and the military was told long, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, don't go across that border. Don't be over there. We're not going to come and get you. That's how bad it was. And we weren't doing anything to resolve it. So God bless President Trump. He's willing to be that man who'll stand for each of us so we can heal in these areas. Can you imagine if we were at peace with Mexico and that they had enough money and they didn't have to deal in drugs and have these cartel gangs? In Venezuela, that's where these gangs came from. Colombia, that's where the gangs came from. We brought in the guys from after Vietnam. What did we have in California? We didn't know how to deal with the Asian gangs. Our police were like, who are these guys and how are they operating? So it's not just cultures coming into our country and destroying us. These gangs have their own techniques. They have their own processing. And when you're in the law enforcement process, you can't even handle it. And the only way the elite will handle and protect the law enforcement is if they cooperate with the elite to bring in these gangs. I mean, I'm trying to help us see from a 40,000-foot view, we got a mess. And President Trump is willing to put his name on it and clean up the whole mess. And so Cuba, the Rough Riders, do you know that it was so victorious at San Juan Hill, which protected Guantanamo, which is where our base is to this day for the Navy, that Guantanamo area being saved was so popular. That's how Theodore Roosevelt, the minute he came back on the land in America, they immediately voted him in as the governor of New York. He went right from that to being the president of America. And he said, America is just, it's not the government, it's you and me. You and me, we're the government. There's not some government and then the people. We're all it. We work together to get this nation where it needs to be. And he kept saying that and fighting for that. And he was trying to warn the people because he knew that if you go out in the arena and you become that guy, you're the one's going to get beat up all the time. And that's how we became a silent majority in this country.
This is great, and this is the kind of reporting that we need. We need to get back to because during that time frame, William Randolph Hearst, who's been given a bad name, I believe, was actually reporting what was going on, and it was getting twisted, still twisted to this day. So he supported, going down there and cleaning up the mess of Spanish, taking over. Now it's just basically degenerated back to what happened with the Spanish, controlling and manipulating the Cubans. So yeah, I think it's great that we're going to go in there and a rescue mission and save them from this evil group that's taken over. Same thing in Mexico. Same thing in Colombia. Same thing, like you're saying. This is brilliant. It's a brilliant plan, but trying to get this message across from this evil press is very difficult.
Well, I put out this last week. It was more than a little over a week ago now, the anniversary of Lake and Riley. And they've sent the picture out. So I completely retweeted it and put a note on, and I said, say her name in capital letters. As soon as I did that, someone gave me the picture of the woman who used her vehicle to attack an ICE agent in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. And so because they came out with her picture, I put that out and said, how is it that the news is going to say, well, she didn't drive over him. She didn't drive over his body. She didn't drive over him. She didn't drive over his body. And they just kept repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. So from putting it out, one of my followers went out and found her rap sheet and brought the rap sheet up on Twitter. And so I retweeted that. I don't know if you can find that tonight, but I retweeted that. And they never say who these people are. And then because I retweeted that, someone else had information. So I had to retweet that. They found a group that she's in that is out there teaching people in America. We're funding it through some program. They're getting money. We're funding how they can protest against, attack, and ram their vehicles. They're told what to do. And then there was a video that just came out late last night where the guy wouldn't stop his engine, backed in and rammed the vehicle with the back end of his car, and then raced forward and rammed the front of his car into another vehicle in front of him. They're taught to do these exact things, and we're paying for it with our tax money through some organizational structure. I mean, it's just, but the upset of the people, they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand the battle. They don't understand what it's going to take for us to gain our country because they think it's a great country and you people don't understand. And it is a great country, but we are not free. We've never been free. We've never been independent at all. And that's what we're trying to gain. And it's a big process to gain it. But to gain it and still have the people in Mexico feel we stole their land. And now Cuba's still saying we stole their land and all we've done is lease some property for Guantanamo base. That's all we've done. And they say we stole the Guantanamo base property. We didn't steal anything. But see, if they keep lying and repeating the lies, then you start thinking, and that's why they say death to America, is because there are people using American money to do this, but it's not the people who are fighting to save countries in this world and to bring us to peace, like the president, and get the job done.
Yeah, it's a sad situation. So yeah, and your Nation Restored, really good stuff. I like the one with looks like Patton, and it's got is that
that's the old Donald Trump, isn't it?
It's Trump, looking like Patton. Oh, that's fantastic.
Because there's still a question: is he the son of Patton? And everybody wonders why. Well, the girlfriend, the young girlfriend of Patton, they said was having a baby, but she was ill from the war, and I don't know if she lived much longer. I don't know the details, the dates, or anything. So it was just fun today to put the one out of Patton because he's in the snow, which they said is going to be, we're going to have ice, like ice age, the next few days across the country.
Yeah.
And this one just came out today.
This is great. I think he's the son of Patton. I know what you're talking about. And there's a lot of stuff to point to that, like you're talking about. So because he's got I guess he got like Patton's dog, the same type of dog, and he named it. I don't know if he named it Patton or something, but there's a lot of similarities between him and General Patton, and he
Mm-hmm.
talked about him all the time. He's like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's very, very interesting. So yeah, so here he is. He's trying to do what he did or tried to bring to light back during the at the end of the Second War, that there was this group that seemed to be sabotaging us. I think he was trying to get that information out, and they tried to kill him. They paralyzed him, put him in a hospital. He was doing great, and then he put him down in the basement, and then he ends up dying. So I think they killed him because
Mm-hmm.
he was going to reveal, like we're doing
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Mm-hmm. And the child was a baby. And when you look at the date of his birth, anyway, and going to a military academy, nobody else in that family went to a military academy.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knew what the battle was. There isn't anybody in his family who even spoke like this. His sister was an extremely liberal judge, remember? She was completely on the other side of who he is. The niece is completely on, they're all on the other side of who he is, so they don't know the truth that he knows. They aren't seeking the truth that he knows.
Yeah.
But they were raised with a completely different ideology and structure of their lives. It's been a very, very interesting process. And Venezuela, last time we were together, we were talking about Maria Machado being extradited out of Venezuela ahead of time. It was several days in front of what happened with Maduro. So I also put out on Twitter the picture. Did you see what just happened? I think it was on Thursday, where she was at the White House and she gave her peace prize. And isn't it interesting? How
Hey,
could somebody
President
in
Trump. That's what I
Venezuela
heard. Yeah.
who won the election and not Maduro? Maduro didn't win the election. She won the election and wins the peace prize. And so I'm really thinking the White Hats, because the elites only give the prizes to the elites, and she wouldn't have been an elite for winning over Maduro. So she gets a peace prize, but she brings it to the White House. She is in America, but she brings it to the White House to the president and gives him the peace prize because she's so honored and respects him so much for what he's doing to help Venezuela. And that what the media is saying, he wanted it to have more oil reserves than Saudi Arabia. He wants to be the king of everything. He wants to be the president like of Venezuela. That's the farthest from me. That's not even. He said, "I'm going to have our guys come down and we're going to do it, and we're not going to charge you." Because those same companies let those go, because one was mentioning how this, he knows the oil industry better than I do, and he went through the whole process. If you shut down the lines and you aren't bringing out the oil anymore out of the ground, everything stops. And you know how they say prime the pump, just as a water well, you got to prime the pump to get the water to figure out that it's supposed to come. Well, you can't really do that with an oil well. With an oil well, you got to pretty much start over. And that equipment is so old and so bad. But because those companies did what they did, he's having those companies, Chevron and Enron, he's having them go back. And now they're going to fix it. They're going to give them the new equipment. They're going to revise everything. They're going to get everything so that they can be prosperous again. So that's why I put out a tweet that if people could just listen to his words, he's saying exactly what he's going to do. And he said, what we're going to do is I'm going to stay with him. We're going to help them until they're stable again and prosperous again, because I want the people to be able to be prosperous and return home to Venezuela and live a good life. And that's all he's offering to do, but he's offering to do that out of his heart. He isn't charging us for what he's doing. And yet what happened on the media? He turned his back on America to help Venezuela. So you think he's facing South America and he's got his back on America? That's not even what happened. I mean, it isn't even in the conversation. It isn't. It isn't a single word that he's been saying. He made it very, very clear. We're going to go down and we're going to fix those wells. These are the companies that are going to go fix it. We're going to get that handled because they can't afford anything. They've been stolen from. And so we're going to go do this and get them set back up again, and I'll help them until they're stable. And he knew that people are with Maria Machado. Her win was it was a Trump win in Venezuela. And they flipped it and gave it back to Maduro. Maduro and Chavez have been running that country for more than 25 years, guys. And it's been a complete travesty. And so if she's willing to put herself in the arena and make it happen and win, then you know the people are behind her. They see what she wants to do and they're celebrating wanting her to do it. But she's not going to be able to counter everything if she doesn't have Trump and our military with her. And that's what he's offering. We're going to stay with her until and with them until their whole leadership team is stable and the country is going to be fine and not taken advantage of the way that, because Chavez and Maduro signed the agreements and they allowed all this to happen to their countries. But it's just like Woodrow Wilson. He said, guys, on his deathbed, I sacrificed my family. In order to save my family, I sacrificed my whole nation. And now here, back to Woodrow Wilson and Lamar, the attorney, once they made him the Supreme Court justice, what do? They set up the League of Nations. It became the UN. They went down to Mexico and redid a treaty. Where's that treaty? What agreements did they make? Because Treaty de Hidalgo gave us the land, and we paid $15 million to Mexico. So who got the money? You see what I mean? We don't realize how this battle has never ended with Mexico. It's never ended with Cuba. They stole from us. They stole from us. We fought and won the battles, and we paid the money, and it's ours. It hasn't been secured because there's people paying them to come up to Los Angeles for decades and support that La Raza radio. La Cuque, C-U-C-U-Y, C-A-C-U-Y, it means the boogeyman. And everybody in Mexico is scared of that name, La Cucuy. And so they were scared of this guy. He was the anchor to the programs, and he's very charismatic, kind of like I put the picture in the books. If you look at Stalin, when he was so charismatic and got everyone following him, and he had a lot of great hair and he looked really good and he was like 30 years old, that's what they do. They come in, they look really good, they have a good story, that's what they do. They were wrapping the Amtrak trains in California going up and down the coast, telling the people to revolt. And that included all the migrant farmers in all the strawberry fields, et cetera, onion fields, et cetera, going up the coast. So they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing, La Raza being the revolution, name of the station, and people were donating and helping and fundraising for it, thinking the Spanish people needed a separate station, Spanish-speaking people in America, to get involved and create a revolution against what? America. Because they think we stole the land. And I'm not kidding. When you look up San Juan Hill, and go ahead, I'm just saying, do your own research. Guantanamo Bay, Guantanamo Base, Gitmo, all of those things wouldn't even be possible if the Rough Riders, the cavalry, had not loaded up their horses, gone on barges or whatever to get down there to Cuba and calm these things down. But the thing is, once that's done, it's done. And people said, well, there haven't been any uprisings, Sheila. Yeah, there are. There are. When you have decades of people with the Mexican flag up right side up and American flag underneath it upside down, you got a revolution on your hands.
Yeah, even the Rough Riders, I think they paid their way. The American military didn't have the wherewithal to move people, so they pretty much funded themselves. A lot of people don't know that. Now the Iranian Revolution, if you go back to that, you're talking about how these Islamics, fundamentalists, are basically starting to they're trying to take over the world, or they're being used, I think, by this cabal, as useful idiots, unfortunately. Just like the Hitler used the brown shirts, and once he got in power, he basically killed them off. So that's what they're doing with these Islamists. So once they get in control, they rule by iron fist. The Iranians were in Venezuela. The Cubans were in Venezuela. The Chinese were in Venezuela. So all of these very evil governments were in Venezuela, and President Trump has cleaned that out, or it's being cleaned out. So this is going to be very monumental for the rest of the world. So you have these other governments. I think the Iranian government is probably going to collapse here pretty soon with the help of the United States. And China is still going to be in power. China is still a threat. China has a lot of silver. Silver's going crazy. We need silver for the future because all of the high tech stuff has to have silver these days, batteries and so forth. China's got they've locked it down, and they have a lot of that silver built up. We've been downsizing or using up our silver back stores because of the last 5 years we haven't been producing enough silver. So where is silver? In Mexico, in Peru, high concentrations of silver, and in Venezuela. So not that we're going in to steal it, it's that we're going in instead of having them steal it and then collapse America, the last bastion of goodness in the world, really. We're basically spreading out to basically secure that, take it away from them, and then build our industries to the point where we can share that with the world. And so we'll have, peace throughout the world through strength. And we just saw that in Venezuela. Our military is like unstoppable, untouchable. That was a great display of our military wherewithal. Everything was basically stopped. Their lights went out, their radar went out, their weapon systems went offline. There was like some kind of sonic device that was used to basically got people to their knees. The guys came in, they're like extremely well trained. They took out everybody that was a threat, got Maduro, and boom, he's here in the United States now. Now everyone's looking at that going, holy moly, what do these guys have? We got the wherewithal, like Trump just said recently. The only thing that's keeping me back from basically taking over the world right now is my morals, right? So, and maybe not exactly like that, but pretty much like that. So, we could go in and take over the world and be like, the Hitlers or the, Khomeinis or, whoever is a bad guy, but we're going to do this and we're going to do it in a very beautiful, positive way.
Every nation, sovereign soil, sovereign people on their own nation, thriving, flourishing, and we all help each other around the world, around the globe. Right. I don't know that it's a globe, but anyway, around the world, to the four corners of the earth. I'll say to the four corners of the earth and just leave it there.
Yeah.
So, but where we're at is that the people haven't had a chance, and because Trump came in, we're not realizing we were out of chances. Yeah. We were out of chances. They were done with us. 2020 proved to us they want us dead. They want us dead. It's the whole goal is recycle unto death, and that's their number 20. And their power number is 19. So everything started in 29. That's why it's CV19. That's not just that. There's 19 ingredients in it to kill you. There's and the same ingredients are in the bioweapon that they got the patent on 110 of 2017. And if I hadn't lived through the targeting of Linwood, I wouldn't have been able to find it. But because I lived through and I know the stuff that they put in me by whatever means they had, EMF was some of it. They feel drone attachments were some of it. But when I saw Russ Dizdar video, I saw him hit twice. Now, Scott McKay knew as I was leaving, and I had that picture taken as I was leaving the Linwood event. He said, Sheila, you were already hit. You were already sick. Look at your eyes. And I never noticed it until Scott McKay told me, look back at your picture, Sheila, you were already hit. But I actually saw Russ Dizdar's body react to the hit. But that's what they wanted. They wanted us dead. That was the Civil War. They wanted us dead. That was Vietnam. I mean, I already told you guys, I was a human resources director, and I helped for a year a Blue Shield to try and keep the contract for the military, or for the Champus, for the military people, for their medical, and we couldn't keep it. The contract went to South Carolina, but I was there for a 1-year contract to get it resolved or close it out. And I met this guy, older guy. He either had 3 guys with him, or there were only 3 guys that went. And President Kennedy sent them over to Vietnam to see what was going on. He wanted a true report. And they came back and they said, sir, it's a civil war. Stay out of it, get our guys out of it. Nobody knew that we were already over there for several years. This wasn't brand new in the 60s when he came in. He wanted to end it because he didn't want wars, just like President Trump. And so they said, you got to get out of it. It's a civil war. Get out of it. And then as they were taking the coffin back to D.C. that night, the new President Johnson was sworn in, and he signed us right back into Vietnam, and he canceled the executive order on silver. Those are the two main things that I know happened immediately at that time, and that's in my books. But because of the research, but I don't know all the other things they changed. But he changed the conversation about separation of church and state, because that's a joke, because they put the churches under the state in 501c3, and so you're state owned. And so if you take all the money of the people and you build buildings and everything else, if something happens to you, that building doesn't belong to any of the people in the community. It belongs to the government. And people don't understand this. And when they write to me and say, you're not going to believe what just happened, our pastor left, nobody wants to become a pastor, and now the government shut down the church and locked it up. Well, how can they do that? And I said, because 501c3 is state owned.
Yeah.
It's in the documentation. You're not free.
So many things about the JFK assassination. He had said that he was going to like break the CIA up in 1,000 pieces. He basically they wanted him to do Operation Northwoods, which was the Cubans basically crashing planes into skyscrapers in New York. And he says, I'm not going to do that. What are you talking about? And so, of course, in 9/11, that happened. So they just dusted that off and brought it back and got us into a long, drawn-out war against the terrorists, which, you know, they had to do something because the Soviet Union was gone. There was no threats anymore. And so they had to create one, and that's what they did. And smallpox, they started the smallpox vaccination, which started cancer rates rising. Cancer was so rare. If someone had cancer, they're like, all the doctors would come to somebody who had cancer. It's like, what is it? We got to study this. But once, you know, and the CIA was behind that, they pushed the vaccination program. That was when it started, you know, during that time frame. So lots of things, you know, connected to, you know, he was the last bastion of a lot of different things, and he was trying to turn things around, and they took him out. Fortunately, it's from Reagan, I think, all the way up to President Trump. In that middle time period, we had one bad president after another. The Bushes, the Clintons, Obamas, on and on and on. So all of them are horrible, you know, deep state puppets.
Well, on purpose. It was 41. Hard to call him Bush because he's sheriff, but on 41, I'll just call him a number. 41 was actually in charge of the team. He had been he was the shortest director, I think, ever in the history of the CIA.
Yeah.
And of course, Robert David Steele, I think I sent you that quick video. Robert David Steele confirmed there's 7 different divisions of the CIA, and the divisions don't know the other divisions. So it's not just CIA. It's CIA torture unit, CIA unit. And there's 7 different units, and they're independent. So you don't get to know the other ones. You're picked for whichever one you're going to be in, and that's the only one you know about. And you think that's the whole CIA. And so he explained that, and that's why Kennedy knew this from Eisenhower, and that's why he said, I want to break it into 1,000 pieces and send it on to the winds, and to the 4 corners of the earth. That's where it would end up. But Bush 41, number 41 president, was in charge of the team. The 3 guys, the guy with the guns, the guy doing the sniper shots, all of these guys were part of the team. And they all gave deathbed confessions to their children. And those have always been on YouTube and available to be seen, because their children wanted them to be able to clear out their heart and die separate from what they had to live through by realizing what they were involved in. And it was 41 who said, yeah, I think I was in Texas that day, but I think I was over in Houston. Like he didn't know where he was and didn't know what happened. But and this is in the new book, there's a debriefing that happened the very next day. And the debriefing was done by J. Edgar Hoover, and the only one he debriefed was 41 president.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you can see there's not an adoption there. That is absolutely the dad and the son. But the dad met with the 2 Kennedy brothers, the president and the attorney general, Robert F. Kennedy, and got his industrial money back from Germany effort and selling. He was selling all of Tesla's information. He was an assistant to Tesla, and Tesla knew he was an illegal in America and said that, why am I, you know, with this one? But everything's planned, everything's positioned. And then it was 43 the son of 41, who took us through 9/11 and was at a school that day flying paper planes. And I mean, they're just kind of mesmerized about it. And then in 2003, he was on an aircraft carrier out with us in San Diego saying that we had won the war and he was celebrating with the guys. And that's why the president said 15 years later in 2018, when he fed the guys for Christmas and said, "Why are you still here if you've already been victorious in this area of the country, of the world?" And they said, "Sir, we're just following orders." So I'm really grateful for this, Jaco, because we're able to talk about all the layers. Because until you understand there's a lot of layers, until you start to understand how they connect, because to keep saying, I think President Trump should be more involved in what's happening in America. He's breaking up the Federal Reserve. He's eliminating the taxes step by step. He's correcting the errors in the Constitution that were added that never should have been added. And next thing you know, and he's already talking about limiting how long they can be in service in the House and the Senate, because the Senate became 6 years and the House became 4 years, and every one of those positions were 2-year terms. There was no midterm election. Every 2 years we had an election so we could get rid of the ones that needed to be out. And that's why they had to control and position them according to Charles Joseph Bonaparte. We have a merit-based system to select those who have the opportunity to be in a position in our government. They're choosing them, and we didn't know. And even though I say it, they go, "What do you mean they choose them? A merit-based system?" And because we're not part of the club. So the things that are happening are in secret, and that's why Kennedy said everything that's secret is repugnant. So,
yeah. So everything's
but
being
I don't know if we
revealed
can
now.
pull up the picture. Yeah. 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 And on Twitter, I don't know if we can pull up that picture. It's the president receiving, and I love what's behind him. Because people go, "What do you mean what's behind him?" It was a wall. And I go, "Okay, if you think it was a wall, it was a wall." But he received the Peace Prize from her, and behind him was the Declaration.
That's in Nation Restoration.
All the signers. The John Hancock names are at the top. The what?
That's in the Nation's Restoration.
It's a picture. Yeah, and it's a picture of him
Oh, I got it. I see it with Machado
holding the Peace Prize that he got, I believe, late on Thursday.
Very good.
But you can tell it's not just a wall.
Yeah.
It's a painting, and the curtain is open. It's been revealed, and it's the Declaration. And you see all the signers at the bottom, and right by his head, in expanding it, right by his head is John Hancock. You can tell exactly what it is.
Yeah, the biggest one.
And then somebody wrote to me today, and I just wrote back, no, they're thinking all this gold in the White House in Mar-a-Lago is all gold from the gold taken from the Vatican. Let me just clear that up. It's paint. There's a difference between gold paint, gold framing. The gold from the Vatican is actually currency. The gold from the Vatican is actually the gold, part of the gold that was stolen from Fort Knox.
Wow.
And so the Vatican gold, the London gold, because when we went back over the internet, back to the International Monetary Fund, and this was under Woodrow Wilson, I believe, it didn't happen at the time of the corporation, but it did happen by the time we became the Federal Reserve, IRS, everything else that was put in 1930.
You froze, Sheila. Nope, lost her. So she'll come back. Here she is. So you said 1913 was the last thing you said.
1913 was Woodrow Wilson putting us under the Federal Reserve, putting us in the IRS, putting the senators into 6-year terms, putting it all within days, just boom, 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 boom. But see, he was credited when they left for when they left to go to Jekyll Island and do what they did in 1910.
Yeah.
They had to take out Kennedy, who was a member of the Millionaires Club. All of this is in books 4 and 5 of the book series, and pictures of the Jekyll Island Millionaires Club. And the only person who had a big mansion there was J.P. Morgan. And J.P. Morgan took over the banks in 1907 while Theodore Roosevelt was on a hunt. He was on a deer hunt. They couldn't get any deer, so they got duck. So here they are up in New Jersey, picking up the New Jersey governor, who happens to be Woodrow Wilson, okay? And they're riding on the senator from New Jersey's train car to get down to Georgia. And when the press kept asking what they were going to do, because they had to unload everything onto a barge, there was no other way to get to Jekyll Island back in 1910. They loaded everything onto a barge, and the press said, "So what are you doing?" They said, "We're going on a duck hunt," as mockery against President Theodore Roosevelt. When in 1907, it was J.P. Morgan that decided your bank gets to stay open, your bank has to close. Your bank's going to be solvent, your bank's going to be insolvent. He made all the decisions, and he felt he had the authority to do that because Theodore Roosevelt had taken a short break to do a deer hunt down in Louisiana. And so, do you see what I mean? So, and then in 1909, they take out Kennedy. Kennedy owned that Durham boat picture that everyone refers to, and then they've got one now with President Trump on it, etc. When they cross the Trenton at Christmas time in the horrible conditions. That painting was owned by Kennedy. Kennedy was the president of the Manhattan Bank in New York. And so what happened is J.P. Morgan takes over his estate, sends his wife to the country house, takes over his Fifth Avenue apartment, takes over all of his assets, and sends the nephew to the memberships in all these private clubs, and then builds him up to be another person under who? J.P. Morgan. So all of this has just been layer upon layer. They knew what they wanted to do, and they knew how to do it. So I think we mentioned last time, centralized banks at the time before, centralized banks since 1791. Start in Philadelphia, where the Liberty Bell is, take away our liberty. It was all on purpose. And the last one in 1791 into 1792 was Savannah, Georgia. So it came down the entire eastern seaboard from up in Philadelphia down. There was already one in New York. There was a national bank. Against our Constitution, there was a national bank, guys. So we weren't even 2 years after the inauguration of George Washington, and they had taken over all of our money and how we handle money in this country. So it wasn't just Woodrow Wilson. And that's why I can't emphasize enough that they when they did all of this, Teddy Roosevelt was the president. Now, you look up his quotes in 1907, 1908. Some of them are in my books because he kept saying, guys, let's align together. Let's hang in here together because it's us. It's you and me. Let's make this happen for this country. But how do you come up against this when you're riding horseback still? How do you come up against this when all you got is radio? When they controlled everything. They controlled every aspect of the media, the newspapers. They controlled, you mentioned Hearst. They controlled Hearst. They controlled everybody. When Billy Graham was promoted in Los Angeles, Hedda Hopper was the entertainment reporter. She was paid to make Billy Graham the name that he became in Los Angeles. And his first big event under a big tent. And it was all funded by Hearst and promoted in his newspapers across the country. So what an honor. You would think that what an honor. He had no idea that they were going to control him in the club. Wow. And that's why, fast forward, during vaccines, why did Franklin say, well, even Jesus would get this vaccine? I don't think so. I don't think anything foreign needs to go into us. So we are where we are because of all of these steps that were taken, that we were never told the truth, because in the 45 points, they discredit history. They discredit the founding fathers. They discredit the Bible. They discredit, it goes on and on and on and on. The only way to program you is to get you back to thinking how they think so they can control you. The whole goal of the process is to control you, to have you operate the way they want you to operate. And that's why they made schools compulsory in 1850. So nothing that we're dealing with now. And here's President Trump helping us counter all of it, figure out how to counter all of it, because if we don't clean up from the ground up, we aren't going to have a structure that's even going to help us go forward as they're changing what has to be changed at the top. You can't make all these things change, all these executive orders. He's 80-90% of them were put together by the America First Policy Institute I've been telling you guys about. I've been helping them since 22, and now they're putting offices in each state, because if we don't have the states organized and we don't figure out who the candidates are and we don't put in the people who are going to fight for this country, we're going to end up being controlled exactly like we were controlled 50 years ago. Because there's been so much change. If you think back, look at all the change President Trump has already made in this country and how we think of things. Because there were people who were so angry at me the day that they were inaugurating supposedly Biden, supposedly on a sunny day. All of it was a lie. On that day, if he wasn't going to be arrested, people wanted nothing to do with anything about what America wanted to do. Where does that come in from? This fight is an everlasting fight. This is for our future generations, and we can't stop. We can't quit. We've got to figure out, this is how they're doing it to us. We can't ever let this happen again. And these are the people we need in. And again, that's why God said in the book, put the whole first chapter of Titus 1, because it's all about how to secure so you have two elders in every aspect, especially budgeting. The money, you now see this is the money flow.
Yeah.
I do have some good news about the money flow, though. There's a new announcement from Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard. You know what they're ready to do? They're ready to put these politicians through RICO charges in court.
Wow.
Because the money laundering,
profiting from the, stock
yes.
market.
Well, and more than
trading.
that, remember when President Trump brought up all the cartels from Mexico, and now Chapo was like one of the first ones, and then by the end of February they had 17 more, and then they had 26 more by May, and so he said, "Yeah, give them all to me," and he said, "Bring them all in," and so they've been reporting and revealing who's been getting the money, because our tax dollars have been funding all these drugs coming into our country and killing us, because the whole goal is for us to be gone. That's the depopulation on the Georgia Guidestones. And so this is
I've
what
been saying that for a long time, because I was like, these guys are being financed by the cartels. So that's good. RICO on all those guys. Wow.
Well,
how many do you think are going to go away? All of them?
You think there's going to be anybody left?
I don't think
the
too many.
daycares, because you know what we found out in California is about 10 days ago, and I put this out on Twitter also. A big guy, his fancy car. I couldn't see. I don't want to mess up the name of the car, but he has a really, really fancy car, and he went to get into it, and that's when they caught him to get a mic moment. $41.2 million in daycares that he received last year. And people think, oh my God, they've got the $41.2 million. They don't get to keep it. The money flows back into the people that are in our Congress. You see? So that's the RICO. I'll do this. If you give me this, I'll do this. This is why I put those judges in prison in San Diego. The decision was federal RICO, because they were deciding the cases before the cases came to court. And when I proved it, those were the charges, RICO charges, because that's the money flow behind the scenes. And so that's the racketeering. And that's what our Congress has been doing. And so all of these things, and that's why.
How many judges did you end up putting in prison?
Only 3 of the 12, and only 1 attorney from 7 law firms.
But all 12 are guilty, huh? They just kind of skirted out of it?
Turned on each other. They turned on each other and helped provide additional evidence to get off. Plea deals.
So that's you. You were amazing. So lucky. So many times you're lucky to be alive. Gosh. So did you have a lot of threats back then? I bet.
And only my dad understood what was going on. My mom wanted to, but she's like, Sheila, they're the FBI. And that's what people kept saying, even until the last couple of years. Even during 9/11, they said, trust the FBI. Even during J6, trust the FBI. You can't trust the FBI.
No.
But you couldn't trust the military they sent either, because they were all sent with orders.
Yeah.
They were all sent with orders. It wasn't protect Americans. Remember, and I still haven't found that letter that I want to find the letter, if anyone has the letter that they asked people to sign, but you have to give them a copy when they sign, but they didn't. They brought troops in, a troop at a time, and had them sign the document that they would fight against the citizens in America. And then finally, one troop totally aligned and said none of us are signing it and walked out. And they knew that the word was going to get out, and they didn't control a troop. And so that's when they stopped having them sign the letter. But
Wow.
that's where our military was headed against us.
Yeah.
And that's how far it had been until January 1, the military accountability letter, and then bringing them into Quantico 1 year, 9 months later, when you've already taken some through court martial. And that's why when people keep saying, you say this, Sheila, but we still don't see any arrests. You're not going to tribunal arrest. You're not going to see it. Those guys you've been seeing ankle bracelets, you've been seeing boots, you've been seeing all that kind of stuff. Do you see those people around anymore? Our brigs are full because everything that is tribunal that's military law. That's not civil law. That's not civil jurisdiction. That's military jurisdiction. These are acts of war against America from not just the other nations, the enemies from within, both enemies foreign and domestic. And that's what the Constitution is for, and that's what the tribunals are about. And so a lot of these crimes that we say, oh my gosh, Comey committed so many crimes, and they let him off. They didn't even, they don't let him off.
Yeah.
He got passed
The,
over, transferred
the,
over.
the Golden Globes that happened just about a week ago. Uh, the woman that was like the MC, she comes out and says, for the last 6 years, there's been no movies or TV shows made here, and she was kind of like joking, but I think they're revealing. A lot of those Hollywood people, like we've seen boots on them, ankle bracelets and so forth. So I think they haven't been making movies there for a while because they get really wrapped up.
Well, and people are noticing on the taking care of what's happened against this country and all the illegals that are here. People are noticing that finally there's a few empty seats on flights now. There's a few hotel rooms still available instead of being sold out every night, and the price is doubling for the Americans. Even when we had discretionary income, the hotels were not full. And so all of these changes that we're noticing, but it's the same thing on your TV channels. How many times have they gone back to other programming? The widows are so upset because they have family values programming, and all the family values have gone all the way back to the Mary Tyler Moore show. I mean, they're going back to things back in the 70s and 80s. And it's like, are you kidding me? And
A
they're
lot of
filling it during
AI
the day.
TV programs now, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
No
because
doubt
they're
about
going to
it.
fill it because they don't have new content.
Right.
So
So they used to steal so much. I've had a lot of guests on that have talked about how they had their work stolen from by the syndicate, the Hollywood syndicate, and
hmm
the people that are controlling it. And of course, the same thing with musical artists as well. So and the sports are all compromised. They're starting to reveal. I'm revealing this for a long time. I think for about a decade now that the sports are basically rigged.
hmm
The top players are basically paid so much to either throw a drop a ball or get tackled and all kind of crazy stuff, and they already know who's going to win, what the scores are, and everything. So I proved that several years ago. I said, okay, this team's going to win. This person's going to be MVP, and it happened just like I said because I've seen the CIA doing this in other countries. Now, a lot of stuff got revealed. This was interesting. You'll like this. When I was in Pakistan, they reported quite often that uh, Huma Abedin was Hillary Clinton's lover. You
hmm
wouldn't see that in the U.S., but in Pakistan, they were revealing that quite often. So there's a lot of stuff in overseas that's revealed that's not revealed here because they have different control systems and their media. So their media over there was trying to expose Hillary Clinton, who at the time was the State Department head of the State Department, and I guess she wasn't playing their game, so they're like trying to diss her. So very very interesting stuff that we learn over time.
So Uma Abedin, think of who she was. So does honeypot work the other way when Hillary gets with Uma? Because Uma's mother was the chief editor in chief of the Arab newspaper, wasn't it, or the Islamic newspaper over in the Middle East?
Yeah, in
And
Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood.
And that
they're all
whole
connected.
connection.
Yeah. So I thought I was going to
So,
like reveal big to you, but I guess you know some stuff maybe I don't.
well, we knew here that it was going on. That's why they were at
Yeah.
Epstein Island together and doing the things that they were doing down in the basement. When they had the basement pictures with the people in white with the red,
Oh,
that was the
wow.
first time I ever figured out about Grace Kelly, because Grace Kelly, they said, was in a sex cult and she was doing things underground and always wearing white with a red vestment. I thought, what would that be? But that's remember when they were cutting up and torturing children
Right.
and cutting
That
things
video.
off of them, and it really got ugly. We don't need to go into all the detail, but that's
Sure.
exactly what they did. So, and that's why tonight I'm so grateful to get into the depth of all of this, because all of this we've known pieces about.
Yeah.
And now if we can understand how serious it is that we get in action, every one of us, to help this country get structured from the bottom up and get our communities back the way they need to be. And that's what the president is doing on a global scale of Venezuela's our neighbor. Cuba's our neighbor. Mexico's our neighbor. We don't need the kind of craziness that's been going on for decades with these ever since the Spanish American War, which is 130 years ago that started. And so all of that got resolved, but it hasn't really healed. It hasn't come together the way it needs to. And that's why I thought it'd be really good to share the video if. And that's why the man in the arena and then the video if, because if we're going to have a life that means anything, if we're going to accomplish these things, and it's going to matter that we were even here. This is the most amazing time in any time in history since the Garden of Eden. This is the most amazing time. Never has this evil been dealt with. We have a chance. We have this one chance to get this right. And that's why I've said again and again, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care who the names of the puppet masters are. You guys keep fighting all of them until you get all the puppet masters secured so that the whole
Absolutely.
thing stops and it doesn't come ripping back against our
Yes.
future generations in 50 years.
Absolutely.
And so if we had a chance to be who we need to be, and this is the if time. The volume seems really low.
All right, let me I know what the problem is. Thanks for bringing that up. We have to get out of this and go back and share the sound. Okay, this should make it better. Thanks for bringing that up. Too bad I didn't do it for the other one too.
Not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but are none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because I don't compare with him, but I can I can honestly tell you, I don't talk about the battles I've been in. You understand the depth of it because I was up against everything. I was up against the FBI. I was up against the judges. I was up against the. But I had to prove to my family that what I was saying was true. And then I research all the identity theft. I get up on that. I write this first one with the congressman, so he took all the credit, and I didn't want the credit. I wanted it to work, and it didn't work with the penal code. So I write the second one, and it was going to be a home identity theft law. So my family's already in the rose garden to hear that it's a home identity theft law, and it's just a second identity theft law. I mean, they were against me the whole time. Nobody has ever been for me the whole time. But because I went through all of this, and again, if you're out there thinking, I'm sorry that God allowed all this horrible stuff to happen to you guys, He never let go of my hand. When it was so deep and so horrible, and it was just the Father and I together, He still brought me through when nobody else was with me. And that has happened many times since because we became comfortable as a people and we didn't look at what would the difference be if I took on what I'm supposed to be here for and I completed it. And I just want to get it done. I don't want my birth date and my death date on a tombstone someday and my dash didn't mean anything. Whatever the years were in between didn't mean anything. I want to make a difference in this because I've been allowed to see the underbelly of all of these situations. And because of that, people go, I don't know how you can connect the dots. I can connect the dots because I see how they operate with each other. I'm not in their system, but I've been beat up by all of their systems, the credit bureaus, the financial systems, the liars of the credit repair. Don't ever get involved with credit repair. They wanted me to use my mom's social security number. And my mom said, sure, Sheila, if that would help you, use my social security number. And then who were they arresting and putting in jail? Only the Americans who were using the social security number of another American because that's been a law since they first issued social security numbers. They haven't, to this day, they've never been arresting any of the illegals, and it's been them since the 1980s. We never had identity theft till they started bringing all these internationals in, foreign nationals, and giving them our ID numbers and access to our programs in America. And this has been going on since the 80s. We didn't have identity theft until it built up in the 90s. So in all those years from the 30s to the 90s, we really didn't have a problem. And then when I was identifying the problem, I became their problem. And so, but I'm not upset about it. It's, I wish there were some other things I would have done in my life from a personal perspective, but I wouldn't trade where I am now for anything because I know what they're doing and I'm going to do everything I can to help anybody who wants to help this country get it the way it needs to be. That's who I am because of what I've been through. And I thank you tonight. I've never talked about this stuff. We haven't even talked about this stuff, Michael, on fighting with the FBI, not realizing they were fighting against me the whole time and destroying me in the background checks on my life, lying about me, merging everything together when it was on my dime to keep starting my life over every 12 to 18 months. For years, decades, I've been doing this. And then they even erased me in 24 and I had to start over again in 25.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, you say God is with you, and that's true. And God also pushes you in these directions so you can learn, so you can come back and have something that is going to make a difference. So you've learned a lot, over these last several years. And from that, you've been able to write these stunningly accurate books and that are, waking so many people up. And I got to share with you the Warriors Battlefield Strategy devotional. I mean, every day that I do this is like, wow, like was this written for me?
Not typical homework, is it? People go, this is a workbook. I mean, yeah, it's a workbook.
Yeah, it is.
We have something we haven't talked about. We're going to be on the military intel panel on JMC Broadcasting in a few days.
Yeah, good.
On January 27.
Yep, that's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
General Bosi invited me. They've not had a non-military person on there, but he heard our interviews. Did you know about this? He heard the interviews and heard what we were talking about, and he extended the invitation.
He recommended it. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be amazing. So I think even Tracy said you'd be great on there. Maybe that filter through as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it'll be interesting to get your take in that. So that's going to be fun.
So that's, I don't know, does it air on the same night? I don't know, but I think it airs on the 27th. I think it goes live, but maybe they
No,
tape
no,
it. I don't
normally
know.
he put together, does his magic in it, and then puts it out in a day or two.
Okay. Okay. So you guys can look forward to that before the end of the month.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we're
definitely.
going to both be questioned. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to sitting back and you guys being questioned. That'll be great.
You'll see. You'll fit right in. The questions are like really good, and everybody give, gives out incredible information. So it'll be a lot of fun to have you in there as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just thank you so much for this tonight.
Yeah,
And
this is
may
great.
every one of us look at that if question. If there's something I could do that would make such a difference in this world, that this world would not go back to where we were. Because people say, I just want it to get back to normal. We don't want anything to be like anything that where we were
We
because,
wanted a better place.
yes,
We
to
wanted
pass on.
always a better place for us having been there. So yeah, and that's the way I know both of us live our lives like that, and I think a lot of our audience feels that way as well. So it's very important. And unless we do that, it's going to be relived again. And I don't think that's going to happen. We're finishing this for once and for all.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just thank you, Jaco. This is every one of these are just they're the best, and I keep saying this is the best one. This is the best one yet, but it
I
is
think this was
because
the
we're
best one,
piling
yeah.
on what we did originally. You know what I mean?
They keep getting
We're
better,
going
yeah.
higher and higher. Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
Yep, great information. Wow, stunning. You always bring it.